Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Y&R Trends. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. In a shocking and heart-stopping turn of events on the young and the restless, Chelsea's confession has sent shockwaves throughout Genoa City as the truth about Connor's paternity finally comes to light, leaving a trail of disbelief, heartbreak, and explosive confrontations in its wake. And it all began when Chelsea, whose secrets have long simmered beneath the surface, could no longer bear the weight of her deception, the gnawing guilt that had plagued her every thought, every moment she spent around Matt, Chloe, and even Connor himself, finally reaching a breaking point where she realized that honesty, however devastating, was the only path forward. And it was in a tense, emotionally charged confrontation with Matt that she finally blurted out the words that would alter lives forever. Connor is Matt's son. The very revelation that had been kept hidden through layers of lies, half-truths, and strategic evasions designed to protect her own fragile sense of security, yet in doing so, had unintentionally manipulated the lives of everyone around her, most notably Matt, who has always carried the mantle of responsibility, integrity, and paternal devotion, unaware that the child he had come to care for, love, and consider his own had, unbeknownst to him, been tied to him by blood all along. And the room seemed to tremble under the weight of Chelsea's confession as Matt's face went from confusion to disbelief, then to a mixture of incredulity and heartbreak, his mind racing to reconcile the past months of bonding, the laughter shared, the milestones missed and celebrated, all of it suddenly cast in a new, irreversibly altered light, as if a veil had been ripped away, exposing truths that could no longer be ignored or sugar-coated. And Connor, innocent yet perceptive beyond his years, sensed the shift. The tension in the air, the sharp intake of breath, the rapid heartbeat of a world tilting on its axis, sensing that the world he thought he knew, the family he trusted, had been built in part on a foundation of secrecy. And in that moment Chelsea, torn between relief at finally revealing the truth and fear of the fallout, braced herself for the inevitable storm, for the torrent of emotions that would cascade from Matt, whose shock quickly morphed into a storm of questions, anger, and desperate yearning for understanding, demanding to know why Chelsea had hidden this, why the deception had been allowed to fester, why Connor's life had been entwined in a web of lies when the truth could have forged stronger, deeper bonds long ago. And Chelsea, trembling yet resolute, recounted the convoluted path that had led them here, the misunderstandings, the circumstances, the fear of judgment, and the complex entanglements with others that had pressured her into silence, explaining that every decision, every omission, had been made out of love and protection. However misguided, and Matt, torn between rage and compassion, found himself in a maelstrom of conflicting emotions, grappling with betrayal, relief, and the dawning realization that the child before him, whose laughter, curiosity, and presence had become a source of joy and connection, was indeed a tangible piece of himself, bound by blood and heart in ways he had never anticipated. And as Chelsea's words sank in, the room became a crucible of raw emotion, with Matt oscillating between tenderness and admonition, trying to process the truth while also shielding Connor from the turbulence. All the while the specter of past misdeeds loomed, the secrecy that had once seemed protective now revealed as a potential source of harm, creating rifts and challenging relationships, particularly as others in their orbit, family members, friends, and adversaries, began to absorb the revelation, each reacting with shock, concern, and curiosity, as the reverberations of Chelsea's confession reached those who had only tangentially been involved, sparking whispered conversations, accusations, and a re-evaluation of past events through the lens of this new incendiary truth. And it was impossible to ignore the psychological toll on Connor, who though young experienced the subtle tremors of disruption in his familial universe, perceiving that the world around him had shifted, that bonds he had relied upon were being reframed, that trust and identity were now complex questions rather than simple certainties. And through all this, Chelsea grappled with the duality of relief and fear, relief at unburdening herself from the weight of deception, and fear of the consequences, the way Matt would process the betrayal, the way Connor would adjust to this seismic truth, the ripple effects through their extended circle, and even the way the town of Genoa City, ever alert to scandal, would absorb and interpret this revelation, as social dynamics, friendships, alliances, and loyalties all faced the test of this bombshell. With Matt eventually taking a moment of stunned silence, the gravity of the truth pressing down on him, and then, slowly, tentatively, reaching out to Chelsea, not in anger but in a gesture that acknowledged the courage it took to come forward, signaling the beginning of a long, complicated journey toward forgiveness, understanding, and rebuilding trust. As the weight of lies lifted but the task of healing began, and together, Chelsea and Matt navigated the challenging terrain of parental responsibility, emotional reconciliation, and the reshaping of family bonds, understanding that Connor's life, once unknowingly intertwined with his biological father, would now be anchored in a newfound clarity, a reality that was as liberating as it was daunting. And as Genoa City buzzed with speculation and gossip, the intimate human story of Chelsea's confession unfolded in private moments of heart-to-heart conversation, tears, laughter, and reassurance, as Matt and Chelsea worked to ensure that Connor felt loved, secure, and at the center of this emotional recalibration, learning that truth, though delayed and difficult, could become a foundation for stronger, more authentic relationships. And in these private, tender exchanges, Chelsea confronted her own guilt, the shame of past concealments, and the lessons learned from living in fear of judgment, while Matt absorbed the complex mix of betrayal, joy, and responsibility, recognizing that the child before him was a living testament to love, hope, and the messy, beautiful reality of human relationships. And slowly, as days turned to nights and conversations unfolded with raw honesty, laughter, and occasional tears, the family began to reconstruct their bonds, with Matt stepping into his role as Connor's father with a newfound vigor and tenderness, guided by the clarity of truth, and Chelsea embracing her role as mother with renewed integrity, understanding that honesty, no matter how delayed or difficult, was the cornerstone of trust and resilience. And through it all, Connor, unaware of the full weight of adult complexities, thrived in the midst of love, security, and connection, learning, perhaps unconsciously, that families could withstand even the most shattering revelations if approached with honesty, courage, and unwavering affection. And as Genoa City watched, speculated, and whispered, the intimate, emotional reality of Chelsea's confession, Connor as Matt's son, became a testament to the enduring human capacity for forgiveness, resilience, and the transformative power of truth, leaving audiences captivated, hearts racing, and eager to see how these relationships would continue to evolve, how past deceptions would be reconciled, how love would be nurtured, and how the family, once fractured by secrecy, could move toward a future defined not by lies, but by honesty, transparency, and the enduring bonds of blood and heart, all while the larger canvas of Genoa City continued to unfold with its intricate web of drama, tension, and ever-present suspense, making Chelsea's revelation not merely a plot twist, but a pivotal turning point in the lives of Matt, Chelsea, Connor, and everyone connected to them, demonstrating that even in a world rife with secrets, the courage to tell the truth can ignite profound change, reshape identities, and ultimately, allow love to flourish in ways previously unimaginable. And as the reverberations of this revelation continue to ripple through Y&R, viewers are left on the edge of their seats, anticipating the fallout, the reconciliations, and the heartwarming moments of connection that will inevitably emerge from this watershed confession, cementing Chelsea's decision as one of the most pivotal, emotionally charged, and consequential moments in recent Young and the Restless history. A moment that redefines family, loyalty, and the transformative impact of honesty, leaving an indelible mark on the narrative and in the hearts of audiences, forever altering the landscape of Genoa City drama, and proving once and for all that no more lying can lead to a brighter, more authentic, and emotionally resonant future for all involved, especially for Connor, whose life has been irrevocably changed for the better, and for Chelsea and Matt, whose courage, vulnerability, and love have shown that truth, no matter how long withheld, ultimately triumphs over deception, bringing clarity, reconciliation, and the promise of genuine connection that audiences will continue to witness unfold with bated breath and unrelenting fascination. The shockwaves from Chelsea's confession that Connor is Matt's son did not merely ripple through the walls of a single room but radiated outward across every corner of Genoa City, igniting a wildfire of speculation, tension, and anticipation among friends, family, and rivals alike. And as Matt attempted to reconcile the reality of his newfound paternity with the layers of deception that had kept him in the dark for so long, he was beset with an emotional tempest, alternating between waves of tenderness for the child he had unknowingly nurtured as his own, the sting of betrayal that Chelsea's prolonged silence inflicted upon him, and the gnawing, persistent questions about the motives and timing behind the disclosure, and every moment that passed seemed to heighten the intensity of the emotional stakes. as Chelsea herself was trapped in the duality of relief and fear, knowing that by confessing the truth she had unleashed a storm she could neither fully control nor predict, yet simultaneously felt a profound sense of liberation, as the crushing weight of secrets that had long dictated her every action, her every word, had finally been lifted. And with this admission came not only a reckoning with Matt and Connor but with a host of secondary players whose lives intersected in the complicated latticework of Y&R drama, from Chelsea's inner circle to Matt's extended family, and even those with peripheral involvement whose curiosity and gossip threatened to exacerbate tensions further. And as these layers of emotional complexity unfolded, Matt's mind raced through a series of scenarios, each more convoluted than the last, as he tried to chart a course that would honor his new responsibilities while simultaneously confronting the pain of betrayal, the realization that he had been operating under false pretenses for months, and the knowledge that Connor's understanding of his family, his identity, and his place in the world had been built upon a foundation now irrevocably shaken. And while Chelsea provided heartfelt explanations, recounting the circumstances that led to her initial concealment, her fear of judgment, the convoluted nature of her relationships, and the intricate interplay of intentions meant to protect rather than harm, the air remained thick with tension, each word carrying the potential to soothe, inflame, or destabilize the fragile emotional equilibrium, and the very walls of Matt's home seemed to absorb the gravity of the revelations. Each creak, each silence, each shared glance between the adults laden with meaning, consequence, and unspoken thought, as Connor himself began to process in his own way the seismic shift in his reality, sensing that relationships once taken for granted had shifted, that the adults around him were navigating treacherous emotional waters, and though his comprehension was partial, his intuitive understanding of the nuances of love, protection, and familial loyalty became increasingly acute, prompting moments of vulnerability, questions, and an unspoken need for reassurance that he was still loved and that the world he had known had not been destroyed, merely reshaped by the revelation. And as Chelsea and Matt worked through these early, turbulent moments, they also had to navigate the reactions of others, from Chloe, whose own history with Matt added layers of complication, to extended family members whose alliances, loyalties, and perceptions were now subject to reinterpretation in light of the bombshell confession, and the social dynamics of Genoa City, already rife with intrigue, scandal, and competition, served as a pressure cooker for emotional intensity, gossip, and unforeseen consequences, as every whisper, every rumor, and every public display of emotion contributed to the growing sense that this revelation was more than a personal family matter. It was a tectonic shift within the community, challenging assumptions, altering relationships, and redefining boundaries. And in this charged environment, Chelsea's ongoing reflections and admissions were crucial, as she confronted not only the mistakes of the past but the ongoing responsibility to repair trust, rebuild connections, and nurture the parent-child bond that had been delayed by secrecy. And through long conversations, tearful reconciliations, and moments of tension and honesty, Chelsea and Matt began to construct a new framework for their family, grounded not in deception but in truth. Yet the process was anything but linear, punctuated by setbacks, emotional outbursts, lingering doubts, and the inevitable complications that arise when a child's understanding of identity, family, and loyalty is suddenly reframed. And within this maelstrom of human drama, Connor's own responses became a silent barometer of the family's emotional health, as his curiosity, emotional sensitivity, and perceptiveness revealed a keen awareness of change, prompting Chelsea and Matt to approach each interaction with careful consideration, aiming to reinforce the child's sense of security, belonging, and unconditional love. And as they navigated these delicate dynamics, other Genoa City residents became increasingly aware of the revelation, with conversations in restaurants, offices, and social gatherings buzzing with speculation, judgment, and intrigue, each new reaction amplifying the stakes for Chelsea, Matt, and Connor, while simultaneously presenting opportunities for growth, reconciliation, and the testing of bonds previously assumed unbreakable. And the psychological dimensions of this drama became increasingly layered, as Matt contended not only with his immediate emotions but with the implications of paternity on his long-term life plans, responsibilities, and the alignment of personal goals with newfound parental obligations, while Chelsea wrestled with questions of self-worth, culpability, and the ethics of delayed disclosure, all the while striving to maintain a nurturing, protective environment for Connor, whose own development and understanding of trust, honesty, and familial loyalty would be profoundly shaped by the events unfolding around him, and as days progressed, the intricate choreography of emotional management, relational negotiation, and strategic communication became central to maintaining stability, and yet the shadow of past lies lingered, as the human tendency to ruminate, question, and analyze the motives of others kept tensions simmering beneath the surface, generating occasional flare-ups, misunderstandings, and moments of confrontation that tested the resilience of newly established bonds. And through it all, the narrative arc of Chelsea's confession served as both catalyst and crucible, forcing each character involved to confront their assumptions, priorities, and capacity for forgiveness, while simultaneously offering opportunities for personal growth, emotional insight, and the deepening of relational authenticity, and the broader thematic resonance of the storyline, truth versus deception, parental responsibility, and the transformative power of honesty, was rendered tangible in the nuanced interplay of human behavior, motivation, and consequence, as each interaction, from private dialogues to public displays of emotion, reinforced the profound reality that the revelation of Connor's true paternity was not merely a plot device, but a mirror reflecting the complexities of human connection, the fragility and resilience of trust. The revelation that Connor is Matt's son continued to reverberate throughout Genoa City in ways that were as unpredictable as they were profound, extending far beyond the immediate family and touching virtually every corner of the community. And as news of Chelsea's confession spread, whether through whispered conversations in local cafes, hushed office gossip at Newman Enterprises, or the strained tones of phone calls exchanged among friends and acquaintances, the social fabric of Genoa City began to shift, each interaction subtly, and sometimes dramatically, affected by the knowledge that Connor's paternity had been hidden for so long, and the ripple effects were not limited to the adults involved, as even Connor's peers and close friends began to sense a change, an undercurrent of tension, curiosity, and speculation, observing subtle behavioral shifts, glimpses of intense emotion in Chelsea and Matt, and the occasional tense conversation that hinted at secrets newly exposed, and the compounded weight of these dynamics created an environment that was simultaneously volatile, emotionally charged, and fraught with possibility for dramatic confrontation, reconciliation, and narrative escalation, as each character was forced to confront their assumptions, reassess relationships, and navigate the intricate web of trust, loyalty, and expectation that Chelsea's confession had disrupted. And in the midst of this, Matt found himself grappling with a unique blend of emotions that defied simple categorization. Pride in discovering his biological connection to Connor, frustration and sorrow over the long-term deception, protective instinct toward a child whose world had just shifted, and a profound sense of responsibility to recalibrate his approach to parenthood in a way that would honor both the child's well-being and the complexities of the adult relationships now in flux. And these emotional currents were mirrored and amplified in Chelsea, whose sense of relief at finally telling the truth was tempered by guilt, apprehension, and an acute awareness of the social ramifications, as she navigated the delicate balance between honesty, protection, and the inevitable fallout from friends, family, and rivals whose interpretations of her actions were likely to range from empathetic to accusatory. And as both parents endeavored to create a stable, loving environment for Connor, they were acutely aware that the child's perception of security, identity, and familial belonging had been irrevocably altered, necessitating constant reassurance, attentive listening, and nuanced emotional guidance, all while the backdrop of Genoa City's social landscape acted as an omnipresent observer and influencer, magnifying every emotional exchange, every sign of vulnerability, and every subtle shift in relational dynamics. And as the days progressed, Chelsea's inner circle, including her closest confidants, friends who had long suspected that something was amiss, and even those who had remained uninvolved out of fear or caution, began to process the implications of her revelation, with responses ranging from support and understanding to skepticism, judgment, and in some cases, thinly veiled opportunism, as individuals assessed how this new information might influence their own positions, alliances, and leverage within the intricate web of Genoa City social.